Welcome to the Calder Farmstead.
Now the Ice Hawks back out to center in transition. Carlson with Quenneville 2-on-1. Right with Carlson, Quenneville scores!
Here's a chance for Barrett. Fighting scores! Off the face-off! Up it's Eminger. Pulled back to Werenski. Has it. Shoots one. Bounces off a man. 5 seconds left. Werenski. Another jam on the shot. Turning and firing. They go! Scores! They score! Now they catch each other and they both go right over the top. Matching rights to one another. McDermott gets the helmet off of Cassie.
And now with 9 minutes gone in overtime, the Bears breaking out right side with Bear. Looks like cutting to the net. Bear will score!
And here are your hosts, Cece and Sean.
Hello and greetings from the mile-high city of Denver, Colorado.
And the home of LeBron James, Akron, Ohio.
Welcome to the Calder Farmstead podcast, episode number 37 for Tuesday, May 18th, 2021. If you were hoping for a podcast featuring the handsome flow and dulcet tones of one Sean O'Brien, we are not going to be much help, at least not this episode, because this is an American Hockey League podcast, and my name is Cece Hockley.
And I'm Elaine Shircliff.
And as always, we thank you all for tuning in. Well, maybe not Elaine, because Elaine is filling in for Sean, who's taking a much-needed long weekend with his significant other. And so Elaine valiantly stepped in as my co-host for the evening. So we are partners for the duration of episode number 37. So
I'm
no pressure.
No pressure, but I'm really excited to be the black ace of this club.
Oh, I like it. You are the black ace. You are the black ace of full press hockey and the Calder Farmstead. Actually, no, I take that back, because Elaine and her AHL Central Division coverage this year was amazing. It was fantastic how well she juggled 6 teams. And you know, I was skeptical at first. She said that, you know, I'll handle the Central Division. You know, they're going to be playing each other a lot. And, you know, Cleveland played Rochester a few times in the interdivisional North and Central. But yeah, you're a black ace to the Calder Farmstead, but you're top line. You're top pairing person for full press hockey. So I'm just going to, you know, flatter you a little bit there and say that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. If you haven't read Elaine's stuff on Full Press Hockey, go check it out. She, like I said, she covered the AHL Central Division very well, especially Chicago's run and 2 sets of prospects from 2 NHL teams funneling into Chicago. And Elaine, since, you know, you're co-hosting, you're here, would you be, I mean, this is kind of impromptu, but would you be at liberty to share with the audience what your plans are for next season?
Yes. So I bit off way more than I can chew.
You did admirably. You did well. I thought you did. It was a lot.
Yes. Well, I didn't take into account life stuff like working 50 hours a week on average, helping take care of my dad who was recovering from COVID, you know, having to do that rehab stuff. Yeah. I was like, oh yeah, it's going to be super easy. And I also didn't take into account that games were going to be postponed, and May, the end of April and the beginning of May was just going to be like a game every day, at least one game. And I really missed being able to break the game down. You know, just talking about the way different players played, not just stat wise, but like how they skate, how their specific way of skating affected the way they scored goals and those kind of things. So next year I'm dropping down to 3.5 teams. Cleveland, obviously, because I've been there the longest, and location is just like 40 minutes away. Grand Rapids and Chicago Wolves. And then obviously that half team is the Milwaukee Admirals, because I want to keep up with what the Chicago teams are doing, the players that were on Chicago are doing. So I'll keep my eye obviously on the entire Central anyways, because they just can't really get rid of me that much. But it's not going to be at the forefront of what I'm doing. So I'm actually really excited to do something that's a little bit more manageable. Unless, of course, I get a full time, like I can do this full time, and like me, yeah, then everything's back on the table.
You and me both, sister. Gosh, I would be traveling to California to cover the Pacific Division, but I mean, who knows? Maybe Colorado bumps over to the Central Division next season. I mean, that's a discussion in and of itself.
Right. So. Everything's up in the air for next year, I think, with division alignments. Cleveland can go anywhere, to be honest, because Northeast Ohio there's so many teams within 6 hours. So
it's true. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, covering the ECHL for a couple of years. It's kind of like the Wheeling Nailers. Like when they were in the North Division in the ECHL playing Adirondack and Manchester and Worcester and all those teams because they were pretty close. And then they bumped over to the Central Division and they could just as well play those teams. And, with the announcement of obviously the San Antonio Rampage going to Henderson, becoming the Silver Knights, and then also Palm Springs getting a team in now 2022, that's been bumped out. They were going to debut 2021-22, but Seattle's like, pump the brakes. We'll put our prospects somewhere else for a season. We'll put the what?
Probably Chicago.
Like, that would be hilarious.
They're like I said to Patrick Williams from like the main AHL covers all the teams for the prospects. I told him that the Chicago Wolves are like the foster home of the AHL. So while they're waiting for the team's true placement, they take them in.
It's so true. It is so true. I mean, just recently they had that partnership with Vegas and they were, I mean, when I started, my journalism career, my pro journalism career 4 years ago, you had Vegas, Chicago, and the Quad City Mallards as the affiliation tree there. And now, how things have changed.
Well, what was it like? They shared. It was St. Louis and Vegas at one point, right? Yeah.
I think you're right. And then I think there was even one point when the Avalanche and St. Louis shared the Rampage. I want to say before the Eagles.
Yeah. Yep.
So
but Chicago's they always have a dual affiliate. I feel like they're also like that mom that's like, oh yeah, no, come to my house afterwards. After school, I have all the snacks. Like
Chicago Wolves are the neighborhood mom that feeds all the kids all the sugary snacks, gets them all gacked out, all hyped up, all jacked up on Mountain Dew, to quote Ricky Bobby, and then sends them back home to their parents and are like, what the hell did you do to my kids?
Yep.
That's Chicago. That's the Wolves now. So
it is.
Well, hey, let's talk about the North Division. We'll start off. This is going to be a little more relaxed because Sean's analytical mind, like he is an analytics guru. Yes. And I am very confident in my hockey coverage and my hockey journalist mind in saying that Sean is a different breed when it comes to, the numbers and the analytics and everything like that. And I think that's why him and I work so well as co-hosts is because, we establish that balance and he, is definitely one to say it's not all analytics. It's not all the eye test. It's a blend of both. But when we have this show and we have the format, we break down and we look a little closer at, the mechanics of the players and, the analytics behind the game and, that kind of thing. And so this is a little bit different of a change of pace because one, the weekend was rather busy for me. And so I didn't get to watch as much hockey as I would have liked. And two, just having a change of pace, just having a different episode and having a co-host that, you can cultivate a little bit different synergy, a little bit different chemistry, as it were. It's going to be different, but it's going to be good. So let's start.
Less dad jokes though. Less dad jokes. Because I make not as many as you guys do. Okay. But I laugh at them and I just enjoy them way more than I say them. So there's gonna be a lot of laughing. Lots of laughing.
Lots of laughing. Lots of LOL occurring from Elaine Shircliff tonight. That's for sure. See? She's already starting. All right, let's start with the North Division. And I was genuinely surprised because Sean, he covers the Hershey Bears when we speak in depth and specifically about Hershey. He's very critical of their power play. And so because of that, and rightfully so, I mean, it's always a head scratcher to think why Hershey doesn't deploy Brian Pino on the power play. That's why we had the hashtag free Brian Pino. And it's even on our Calder Farmstead background here in really small font, as a little tip of the cap. But the Hershey Bears, not only did they clinch the North Division title on Saturday night, but with Laval's loss to Toronto later that evening, they also clinched the McGregor-Kilpatrick Trophy, which is awarded to the regular season champion in the AHL. And I'm like, are you kidding me? It didn't go to Henderson. It didn't go to Laval. It didn't go to Chicago. But you look kind of at Hershey's schedule, and Sean and I have been talking about this, Elaine. The North Division has actually been kind of two separate divisions, at least schedule-wise.
True.
You look at Hershey's schedule. All they played was Lehigh Valley, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, and Binghamton. And quite frankly, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, and Binghamton haven't been too much to really, shake a stick at. Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, the Baby Pens, 5th out of 7 teams. Binghamton, last place out of 7 teams. Their last season of existence in the AHL has been just sad and abysmal. But I was really surprised that Hershey claimed both the North Division title and the regular season title in one fell swoop this past weekend.
So there are 2 teams that I've learned to never be surprised about when they do well. And that is Hershey and Cleveland. Because when they want it, when they're motivated, nothing can stop them. I mean, I think about when the Monsters won the Calder Cup and they swept almost every single round. Hershey, when they get on that tear, they go. And the thing is Hershey also, those players slot in really well up with the Capitals. So obviously they're doing something right.
Right.
That power play was concerning though, like you said. And I also did not understand why he was not on the power play. It made 0 sense to me. I wish I could have gotten in and been like, hey, why don't you release him from whatever jail you've put him in?
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, them winning the whole AHL though it wasn't like a total surprise, but I thought other teams would definitely go away with take it away. But Binghamton, did Binghamton play their whole schedule this season? I feel like they just constantly had game after game postponed.
Looking at Binghamton played 35 games. Binghamton played the most games out of any North Division team. I know. It's insane.
It didn't feel like that.
No, it sure didn't. And Utica catching up to play 28 games. Like, there was a point in the season where Utica was the only team in the league that had played single-digit games. They had played 9 games because their games kept getting postponed. So, it was completely just. Yeah, I mean, the North Division, I think out of all 5 divisions this year, it felt like the North Division was postponing or canceling games left and right. And so, the fact that Binghamton played 35 games is like, wow, okay. It was
I didn't
crazy.
realize that. I mean, I watched a lot of those games.
Sure.
But I just, for some reason, it didn't compute that they played that many. Okay, cool.
And Sean, we'll go back real quick to Hershey's power play. Sean was very critical of Hershey's power play structure, but they essentially finished 12th in the league, which out of 28 teams isn't terrible. I mean, you look at the percentage there. Hershey, 18.8% conversion rate on the power play. And it's kind of I don't want to say a significant drop off, but when you've got like Hartford clipping at 27.1% and Cleveland at 27.9%, you've got these number of teams here and only 3 of them were above 25 or 24, Hartford, Cleveland, Rochester, and Chicago. 27.1, 26.9, 25 even for Rochester, and then 24.8. You might as well call it 25 for Chicago. And then a significant drop off to Grand Rapids, 5th in the league at 21.5%. And then Colorado in 6th. Boy, you want to talk about a turnaround. I mean, Colorado was dead last. I think I did the stats here. I broke it down from my article that I just recently put out today about Colorado special teams. There was one point before they let go and mutually parted ways with their assistant coach, Ryan Tobler, 2 for 34 on the man advantage. They were dead last in the AHL, and they finished the year essentially 6th place. I mean, hot damn.
That's really bad. And
Yeah.
it's funny because, like, I know this is an NHL team, but Columbus people think they have it bad. But that's bad.
Yeah.
It's really bad.
That percentage is, I want to say that's like 8% or even less than 8%. I forget what the actual number was because I crunched it for the article, but I didn't crunch it here on my little cheat sheet on my envelope. That's how I make notes.
Yeah, no, you should. My notes are like wherever I can make them, like on my coffee cup, on my arm, wherever. You can relate. Right, I can't. But at that point, when you have that bad of a power play, maybe there could be a provision where you're like, you know what? Maybe we could just play a little 5-on-5. Maybe we could go down a man. Maybe we play a little bit better when we're down a man instead.
I mean, yeah, it's at that point, yeah, you take you take what you can get and maybe, maybe we can be on the penalty, because their penalty kill was great. I mean, it was 24 for 29 on the kill up to that point. Yeah, from February, I want to say February 17th until March 4th. So, I mean, yeah, they were better on the PK than they were on the power play, but I digress. And we're not talking about the Eagles. We're still talking about Hershey. Imagine that. Yeah, we're a little more free flowing this episode. But that's okay. No, you're good. I was the one
Sometimes
that's like,
I go off the rails. I get everyone on tangents. It's like my thing. I'm sorry.
You're fine. You're fine. I'm the one like, let's talk Colorado. I just wrote an article yesterday, so no worries. No worries at all. Let's finish up with the North Division. And so, yes, Hershey, kind of a big surprise to me. Like I said, mainly because Sean was so critical of their power play, and he where there is a need to be fixing, Sean will hone in on it, and rightfully so. But Hershey capturing the North Division title, capturing the regular season title rather. Okay, looking at Hershey's record, 1, 2, 3. Okay. 3 losses since March 21st. 3 losses.
That's crazy.
That is crazy. Through 2 months of play, they only lost 3 times. And let me count the W's real quick. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 3-0 in a 2-month span. And, and that's the thing, is that they didn't put together like a whole string of wins or a point streak, kind of like Manitoba did. I think there was like 11, 12, 13 games that they were surging ahead up the standings there in the Canadian division. But, you kind of look at, Henderson, boom, right in April, right at the end of April, they had a 4-game losing streak. And then they lost to close out April. They lost 6 of 7. After, like Sakura got called up, and it was a little rough for Henderson, and the same with Chicago. I don't want to say the wheels fell off, but they kind of ended up losing too. And I know you and I and Sean, we talked about that in regards to, prospects getting called up and what Chicago's looking like and things like that. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess from a Central Division standpoint, why couldn't Chicago keep it together long enough to clinch, the McGregor Kilpatrick Trophy for the regular season title?
Because their roster was so short. They finished the season playing with, like, I think it was 7 defensemen. Yeah. So at the beginning of the season, they had to practice on 2 separate rinks because there was too many players, because they had the combined. And then, they lost Jarvis to the OHL, and then players just started getting called up from both ends, from Carolina and Nashville. And then I think they got tired too. They went so strong, and the back half of the schedules for both Grand Rapids and Chicago was so heavy. Like one of those games towards the end, Chicago played 2 3-3s over the course of 8 days.
That's right.
And they weren't at home. Like it was 2 away, 1 at home, or it was 2 at home, 1 away, or like it was ridiculous. Like, yeah, but I think it came down to the fact that their rosters just shrunk so dramatically and they were tired. And yeah, I thought they would clinch sooner, but it's typical Central Division.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it's always been when the Monsters were in the Central Division. It always came down to like the last game or the last 2 games before you even knew how the playoffs were going to work out, because the first person could have been knocked out of the playoff race in the last game. It's always been like that in the Central.
Yeah, uber competitive there out in the Central Division for sure.
Yeah.
And, it's the double-edged sword. Very funny that both Syracuse and the Chicago Wolves in the NHL postseason, first round, Carolina versus Nashville, big old lull for Chicago, because now you've got, that expanded roster, not just a taxi squad, but you've got maybe those depth guys that played on the Chicago Wolves now on Carolina and Nashville. And then, of course, you have the Battle of Florida, Tampa Bay and Florida, both hitching their wagon to Syracuse. I had to pause for a second. I'm like, is that correct? Did Florida? Yes.
It's correct.
It's been a weird year.
Oh, super weird.
Oh, yeah. But Florida and Tampa Bay facing off against each other in the first round after both being affiliated with Syracuse. Yeah. So now you have that potential for the Syracuse prospects to face off against. That's just so crazy to me.
It's like a movie, right? Like you can't script it any better, because this is the only way it could have been scripted better is if like they met in the Stanley Cup. That's the only way. But other than that, like one of these teams is going to have to get booted. It was funny with the Wolves during the season. They were tweeting out things like, oh, I hope both teams have fun. Season ends. And today the Wolves are like, we're all about Carolina.
Oh, damn. Wow. Okay. Talk about drawing a line in the sand. Jeez.
I was dying. And they're like, everyone's been great and has been, and we assume that they'll continue to be great. And then they're like, but we're all in on Carolina. I was like, this is amazing.
Bunch of jerks. Wow. Oh my goodness. Well,
I love them.
Hey, let's go north of the border, don't you know? And we'll talk about the Canadian division, even though I sound like I'm from Fargo, North Dakota.
Right. Wait, don't we need to talk about Utica?
Oh, we do. Thank you for...
You just took all the time to have the share screen up and everything. I don't want it to go to waste.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I would have noticed down in the, the little box down there, been like, oh, that's the Utica Comets logo. Look at that. Well, if you've been paying attention to the AHL the past few weeks, you know that the Vancouver Canucks have uprooted their AHL franchise and have decided to go west and play in Abbotsford, British Columbia next season, or at least their AHL affiliate will. And the Utica Comets will now become the AHL affiliate of the New Jersey Devils. And instead of rebranding as the Utica Devils, as they did back in the late 80s and early 90s, back when Martin Brodeur was an AHL prospect, boy, doesn't that make me feel old?
It makes me still feel young because I'm younger than Martin Brodeur.
There you go. That's fair. Well, instead of rebranding completely as the Devils, they're embracing their inner devil without, growing the horns or anything. But yeah, like Elaine said, I have a screen share here. So we're going to just add that there and boom. And check out this neat little video here, if it'll play.
There we go.
There we go. Maybe. Oh.
The fire is such a nice touch. I hope they put fire in the stadium next year.
Oh, I hope so too. That would be so badass. But there it is. The Utica Comets new stylized logo. And me, for one, I love it. It looks gorgeous. I love that. Just, what do you think, Elaine?
Okay, wait, hold on. I loved the old color scheme so much, because I get a little tired of sports teams being like black and red or blue and red.
That's fair.
Even though like all my sports teams are those colors. But it will take some time getting used to. It kind of looks like a soccer crest now with the color change. I'm not sure why it invokes like soccer feelings and makes me irate at the Columbus Crew for trying to rebrand.
I wasn't a fan of that. If it ain't broke,
was anybody right? I'm glad that they didn't change the name for multiple reasons. One, rebranding is expensive, and also Utica Comets is just so ingrained in the town now.
Right.
So people are probably more apt to them wear their old stuff as well, but they're still going to buy this. They're going to eat this new stuff up, because I'm sure Utica is going to find a way to just make it look really great on uniforms, on shirts, on hats. Like, they're really good at branding themselves and marketing their clothes.
I will attest to that, because a player that you may be familiar with, because he's kind of minor league cult status, Colton Saucerman.
Yes.
The man who looks like Yukon Cornelius. Boy, when I was covering the Idaho Steelheads, the Steelheads traded for Colton Saucerman from the Manchester Monarchs when they were still around. And he, like, people loved him. You could hear it from the stands. Yukon Cornelius, woo! Well, he got called up to Utica. And what did Utica do instantaneously? They made it shirts. Yep, exactly.
I tried to buy one and they sold out. I was so mad. I remember.
Idaho totally missed the boat on that. It's like, dude, you got a guy that's got the most epic beard probably in all of minor league hockey, at least minor league North American hockey. I can't attest to Europe or anything, but the most epic beard in minor league hockey in North America, and you don't capitalize on that. It's like, I know he was with the Steelheads for just not even a super short period of time, but like, Utica knows how to brand. I will back that up from what you said. They know how to brand. They know how to merchandise. And you know what? Why not bring Flames into the arena? Because that's right. They're going to embrace the hell out of this. They're going to, and the jerseys, they're going to do the jerseys right. That's my prediction. They're not going to whiff on the jerseys, but they're going to do it right. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine. So I think about what Chicago does with like skates and the fire, and Cleveland used to occasionally do like the fire too, because the Cavs have it. So it's like, why not? But just imagine, so you have the Devils and you have this like red burning cover, and you can combine like the comet thing, like with shooting stars and all of this like fire and fireworks and then like light shows on the ice with like constellations and like drawing out like a devil turning into like a comet. That would be sweet for an opening.
I mean, hell, why not have Orion like launch an arrow through the sky and have it flaming?
Yes.
Are you listening, Utica? Are you listening? We got ideas. You need to give us a little bit of a kickback if you use these next year, okay? Okay.
Just say my name. It's fine. Just say it was all Elaine. I don't need money. I just need.
I mean, Elaine's channeling her inner Destiny's Child and saying,
say my name.
Say my name. There you go. You got
this is what happens when Sean.
You got a little singing too. No, I'll sing with Sean too. I mean. Oh yeah. Well, hey, okay, we were gonna go the Canadian division, but I forget that we do need to pause for a little commercial break. So we're gonna do that before we head up north. So give us just a moment. Listen to our sponsors. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back from the other side of the sponsorships, and we're gonna talk about the Canadian division. Is it weird to you, Elaine? It's weird to me that the Canadian division is still playing games and is going to be still playing games until the 20th of May, while the Pacific Division is engaging in their play-in round for the postseason. Is that a little odd to you?
I'm pretty sure that's like Ontario's fault, though, right?
That's fair. That's fair. No, that's true. That's true, because the last 2 games are going to be Toronto and Belleville.
Mhm.
So there you go. But
it is weird because you think that playoffs would be when everyone's done, but these aren't like real playoffs.
no.
But they are, but like they're not. So it is kind of strange that like I'll be tweeting out, you and I'll be tweeting out about play-in rounds tomorrow,
Right.
or when this drops today.
Mm-hmm.
And someone's probably going to be tweeting about how like the Canadian division is trying to like power through towards the end of the season. What? The end of the regular season is still a thing?
Yeah, and I mean the fact that there was the delays and that, they didn't play until the end of February or the middle of February, there was a bit of a delay. So the fact that they are playing into the Pacific Division postseason, as it were, it is, that does make a little more sense. I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm just like, wait, what the heck? It feels like a year ago, not even 2 or 3 months ago.
Well, this whole season's felt like 2 years long.
It has.
Yeah.
It really has.
I really believed that they were not going to be able to play the Canadian division this season.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Unless they moved teams out of Ontario, because Ontario was so against having any sort of sports, anything other than the NHL teams from playing. So I'm glad that they figured that out, because that would have been super awkward for, the Canadian teams that were playing.
Yeah.
There's not many AHL teams up north anymore,
No, there's not. And the fact that Stockton got brought up north by Calgary, now that you mentioned that, I mean, granted, that's kind of more of our AHL team is across an international border. We have a global pandemic going on. Let's bring them closer. Edmonton didn't do that with Bakersfield, and Vancouver definitely didn't do that with Utica.
But they wished they did.
Oh,
they
yeah.
Wished
hell yeah.
they did. That one breakout happened, and they're like, oh, this is bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I've got a good close friend in Ontario in the, greater Toronto area, and she just barely got her first shot. And she was telling me, my second shot's going to be in August. I'm like, in August? I don't know if that's how this works. Like, you got to get your shot within like a 3 or 4 week span, depending on which brand you get. And so for her to tell me that, I was like, what the hell? And living in Ontario, it's just like, geez, like what is going on in Canada? But
it's tough. But I think I don't want to put words into a team's mouth, but I think that Stockton is a great city. I think they have great fans. I love the way that they integrate STEM into like STEM, like science, technology,
engineering and mathematics.
Yes, engineering and mathematics. I almost said English. That's why I had this stuff.
Sure, throw that in there. Yeah.
But they have special nights for that. And I think that's important. And they love the fans. They love the area. But I think Calgary is seeing that it's helpful to have them closer. In a regular year, it's not such a bad plane ride up there. But we don't know when things are going back to quote unquote normal. So I think they're going to see the value in having them up there. Now, Bakersfield, I don't think they got moved up, because I don't think that Edmonton doesn't seem to really take from their farm team. I don't see a lot of transactions in the past 5 years that I've been covering the AHL. I haven't seen a lot of transactions involving them going up and down. So I don't know if it's because of distance or if it's because they have so much faith in their NHL team that they just want to stick with what they have up there and then maybe assess later. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I mean, this year, of course, normally you wouldn't even think about it. You wouldn't even think about going in between US and Canada. And, even Vancouver and Utica made it work for a little bit of time. But yeah, the fact that, Calgary pulls up their affiliate, Stockton, north of the border, and Calgary has had 5 different cities in 15, 16 years that has hosted their AHL affiliate. Again, a talking point that we have covered on the Calder Farmstead before, Omaha Axar Ben Knights. I mean,
It's a
Axar Ben-
lot.
yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot. And, the Adirondack Flames for a year, I want to say, the Quad City Flames over in between Iowa and Illinois there. And Abbotsford. Yeah, let's put a Calgary affiliate right in the midst of Vancouver Canucks country, because that'll work real well.
That works real great. That's like putting a Boston one up near Montreal. Like, it totally makes sense. Totally.
Yeah, totally. So obviously that didn't work. But go ahead.
But Stockton makes them money. I feel like when I watch those games, whenever at least the Monsters were playing there, they had a really good crowd. I was looking at some of the teams where they used to play, and they didn't get like the same level of crowd. So I wonder if that's why they still had them there and haven't really thought about moving them. I'm not sure. I'd love to pick the brain of a lot of the teams in the Canadian division. Sure.
Well, unfortunately for Stockton, so 2020-21 notwithstanding, Stockton, okay, they started out in the AHL. Their average attendance in 15-16 was 4,647, so 4,647 people.
That's like a Tuesday night in Cleveland.
Right? Yeah. Well, I mean, in all fairness, Cleveland plays out of an NBA arena, so they've got a little more, and it's a major metropolis. Stockton.
It's so weird to hear these numbers sometimes, and I'm like, oh, that's right. Like, Cleveland has a really big arena.
and in all fairness, Stockton used to be an ECHL city, and I've been to the Stockton arena. I watched the Stockton Heat play the Manitoba Moose. That was the first ever AHL game I witnessed in person. So
was that a barn burner? Because I feel like. No, it wasn't.
It wasn't. I mean, yeah, it was. It was a couple years ago, so I mean, it wasn't anything to call home about. But I mean, the Stockton Arena is a smaller arena, so like it's made for an ECHL team. Right. There was a reason. Yeah, there was a reason the Stockton Thunder were there.
I know, it's so weird. Still, like I try to wrap my mind around that, because some of the teams in the Central have really big arenas. And then I go to I went to Syracuse, and I'm like, oh, that's small. Even going to the Coca-Cola Coliseum in Toronto, I'm like, oh,
yep.
We're lucky in Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, San Antonio was blessed with a similar arrangement, playing out of an NBA arena as well. So, but I digress. Stockton, unfortunately, I think they're going to run into the same problem that Binghamton did, in the fact that their facilities aren't up to par as to what the NHL club expects. And with Utica basically saying, hey, look at this brand new hockey facility that we're going to be debuting. That was news that broke within the past week or so. It's like, oh, so that's why you hitched your wagon to Utica's, because yeah. And I mean, the pandemic did not do Bingo any favors, and I don't think it's going to do Stockton any favors. Like I said, almost 4,700 fans average in 15-16, 19-20, about 2,800 fans. You drop almost 2,000. Seriously, you drop almost 2,000 fans per game on average. So not only are the facilities, not up to par to Calgary standards, but the attendance is also going down. So that's not good either.
So here's something I have to say about that, which it kind of bothers me sometimes, is the NHL team wants something so bad that the AHL team probably can't pay for. Then maybe the NHL team should float them and maybe help them out a little bit if they really want that, instead of uprooting a team.
Yeah, I agree with you. 100%. However, it is much easier, unfortunately.
I know.
I know. Well, and if you look at Abbotsford, to kind of put a little bow on this sidebar conversation, we'll talk about the Canadian division in specifically here in a second, I promise. But the fact that Abbotsford was such a cluster, like $13-14 million in the red after just a few years. It's like, man, like at that point, like I
At
don't know
that
how
point,
much,
yeah.
I don't know how much money Calgary has hemorrhaged. If they have, I'm guessing they've probably lost some money in Stockton, especially with attendance figures going down, especially with the pandemic, especially 2 weeks before the season starts or 3 weeks before the season starts, pulling all your staff from Stockton to go up to Calgary. I mean, they already had the players there, but anyway, yeah,
Did all of their staff go? Like, I can't see all of them being able to go. You know what I mean? I can't see all of
Yeah.
them being able to cross that border to get the
Sure.
visa in time. Like, that was something I was concerned about. Like, it takes a lot to get a visa, especially right now. You know, we're seeing that with some players who couldn't make it over to play for the Blue Jackets. They weren't going to get a visa in time, which wouldn't have allowed them to quarantine for the right amount of time. So I'm just curious of when that happened, like, and that's my thing though that was my fear with Utica before I found out, you know, Utica was going over, well, Binghamton was going over to Utica, is how many of those people were going to be able to uproot and move to another country. Moving across the country is one thing. Moving to a whole other country is another, with especially right now, you know. So
Yeah. I'm not sure. I'm sure at that point in time, I mean, it's crazy how fluid things have changed. Like with the CDC just recently saying, hey, if you've been vaccinated, you can go maskless in certain places. Or
right.
and even, you know, the Colorado governor Jared Polis is like, hey, you can go maskless like the CDC says, but you know, just as out of abundance of caution, you can still wear your masks. You know, I would suggest that you do. You know, that's what our governor was saying here in Colorado. But yeah, I mean, trying to put myself back in that spot, and even in February, it's like, okay, 2 week. I think, you know, if the staff did travel up, 2 week quarantine, and then you're good to go. And I think that's why Stockton had a little bit later of a start than the other teams in the Canadian division. That's what I think happened from the year that it has been. Even though it has only been 3 months, it has been a year plus in my mind. So,
it really has.
yeah. But speaking of the Canadian division, boy, some interesting rehab assignments over in Laval tonight.
Yes.
Carey Price, after unfortunately getting a concussion, sustaining one after colliding with Edmonton forward Alex Chiasson on April 19th. So he misses 19 of Montreal's final 21 regular season games because of those injuries, including the last 13 with a concussion. And Brendan Gallagher, he missed the final 21 with a broken thumb. Yeah, not good for a hockey player to not be able to use his opposable digits there. But so Brendan Gallagher and Carey Price, the last game of the season for the Laval Rocket against the Toronto Marlies, they are on rehab assignments. And boy, was it weird to see Carey Price warm up in a Laval Rocket jersey. It was really bizarre. But so far, as of this point in our recording, the Laval Rocket are actually down 2-0 against the Toronto Marlies, which I was kind of surprised.
I'm not, because
okay,
when you have a team that you've had during this season that we've had, they have cultivated this special relationship. And I saw it with Cleveland, and I saw it with Chicago too, is when you started adding players back, or players who haven't played with them, it messed up the chemistry. And so I'm not surprised at all, because a goaltender is the main focal point of the chemistry in my opinion, is the main focal point of chemistry on the team, because it just stems from the goal out to the other side, like how things are going to go. So like if a goalie is feeling really confident that night, the defense feels confident to be able to roam away from the net and go more towards the neutral, which means that the forwards feel more confident to get out of the neutral and make rushes for the other net. So that it doesn't shock me at all. Plus, I mean, Carey Price is coming back from, you said, a concussion. So like,
yeah. Yep.
At that point, oh, okay. So I've had a lot of concussions, and I had coaches and the doctors all would be like, this close to the end of the season, even if I hadn't played, they would have been like, pack it up. Work on like mental brain exercises, and then we'll get you into working out and rehab things. This whole thing in hockey where they're like, oh, well, there's a few games left. Let's just give them a whirl at a rehab stint. Like thank God there's no fans there, right? Like that would have been way too loud for someone who's coming back from a concussion to have to handle.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. It's and it's also telling, and Sean and I have brought this up, as Laval is kind of limping towards the finish, they kind of started off slow, had a fire, middle of the season run with just stringing together so many wins. And it's like, that's what kind of surprised me why Laval, and we didn't touch on that earlier when we were talking about Hershey, but that's what kind of surprised me when Laval, didn't win that McGregor Kirkpatrick regular season title. And, it's because, they started off slow and they've had guys that have gone down for the year with leg injuries. And they've even said, like, out in public, they're like, so-and-so tore his ACL and so-and-so broke his leg or fractured his leg, and they're going to be out for the season. They're going to have season-ending surgery. And then you got Cole Caulfield, who's up with Montreal now. He stayed for a cup of coffee in Laval. Normally the AHL guys get a cup of coffee in the NHL. No, it was the other way around. Cole Caulfield started off there in Laval, and now he's up in Montreal scoring overtime game-winning goals for his first goal. It's like, so, I mean, Laval, kind of having the wheels fall off a little bit. And like you said, chemistry is such an important thing. And to come back from those injuries, rehab assignment they're not going to shine out of the gate necessarily. Especially, a guy like Carey Price who, has to knock off that rust, and even guys on the taxi squad I've noticed in goal, they spend some time on the taxi squad. They go back to their AHL club and they get not necessarily lit up, but they let in 3, 4, 5 goals. And
I mean, that's lit up.
Sure.
That's lit up.
That's fair. As soon as I started increasing in the goals, it's like, yes, TC. That's getting lit up. I was being optimistic, I suppose. But anyway, so yes, Carey Price and Brendan Gallagher, both rehabbing currently in the Laval Rockets' last game of the season against the Toronto Marlies, and the Marlies and Belleville Senators. Like I said, they've got 2 more games to play to finish out this season. So there's that in the Canadian division. And, just briefly touching on it because pretty much everything else is wrapped up. Laval had the division locked up a number of games ago. Manitoba, like I said, with that surge in 11 points, 11 game point streak, winning 10 in a row, and, sitting comfortably in second. You have Belleville in third, Toronto in fourth, Stockton. Yeah. After such a hot start, boy, did the wheels fell off for them early. They fizzled.
Somebody dumped a little bit of water on them.
Yes, I'm afraid so. They weren't so hot anymore.
Someone dampened their fire.
Oh, boy, that puts a damper on that topic. Oh,
I will say I was shocked to see Toronto play not so well this season. Although when I started thinking about it, when they played teams like, say, Cleveland, they always tried to bring like their A game. But if Cleveland had a commanding lead, they just kind of would mail it in. So I wonder if they just kind of like mailed it in the season because they just were like, it's a weird year.
Yeah. Well, it's a weird year. And at certain points, like, you got to wonder, I mean, obviously fatigue, both mentally and physically, come into play. Yeah. I mean, there's so many factors, like everything's out the window this year, but it
is. The window is open and we are going 90 miles down the highway. So everything's just out the window.
Exactly. Okay. Real quick before we move on from the Canadian division, I'm crunching some numbers here for Belleville. So if Belleville wins their last 2 games against Toronto, so 39 and then 35, so 70. Okay. So Belleville cannot catch up to Manitoba for second place. I thought that if they won those 2 games, that it was a possibility, but unfortunately, they are too far behind to be able to do that. So, because they're 0.53 points percentage, Belleville is, and then Manitoba has a 0.569. And if Belleville wins those last 2 games, it'll be 0.557. So just doing a little math. Don't mind me. Numbers are hard. So Sean says he always says, I was told there will be no math. Well, I'm always tinkering with the math, so don't mind me.
Which I think is funny because he's so into the analytics part.
Right.
And it's what makes me laugh is I'm kind of into the analytics part. And like I was one of my majors was physics. So like obviously like math is something I had to know. I think it's funny that like Sean is like really into it but doesn't like math, and I'm like not, but I love math.
Well, and it's because I'm not like a super math geek. Like taking calculus or even pre-calculus in high school, I was like, oh, my brain hurts. But I still love numbers. I love statistics. I'm still nerdy like that. So
same here.
It's
bad.
So it's a problem. But
but see, I balanced mine out by also majoring in vocal performance. So like
there you go. You got your numbers and you got your music theory.
And you got your other numbers.
And you got your other numbers.
You've got counting. You've got adding up and you have counting.
And you got your C sustained 7 and all that fun stuff. And Anyway, music aside, I think it's time for another break. Because we're just taking our time with these divisions and everything. So don't mind us.
Yes.
We're going to talk about the Central Division, Elaine's home territory, right after these messages. And, for the 90s kid in me, I have to do it. After these messages, we'll be right back. All right, we've returned from the other side. Elaine has calmed down from the laughing, not expecting the old 90s buffer, the old 90s bumper music or jingle, I suppose. It's not really music, but anyway, let's talk about the Central Division. We're going to be talking, of course, about all 6 teams in this past season. The Central Division is done with their regular season play. Exit interviews have all been wrapped up in a nice, neat little bow. And, Except one. Oh.
Texas is doing theirs on Tuesday, but I don't think I'll be able to attend it.
That's unfortunate. That is unfortunate.
It is. Well, having a job. Having a day job.
Day job. Yep.
Paying the bills.
Gotta make money, exactly. So, Elaine, I'm going to let you have free reign. I'm going to call you Free Reign Elaine. And
oh God, nobody wants that.
Free Reign Elaine. Don't worry, I'm gonna like set up a invisible perimeter so that if you go too far out, you'll just kind of shock yourself like a collar.
Yes.
And I'll be like, okay. All right, but so I'll rein you in, Free Reign Elaine, if need be. Just don't, bust any of the Seinfeld Elaine, dance moves out towards the perimeter.
I do dance like that.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me that one time. But
it's fun.
Yeah, I agree. It's fun to watch too. Central Division, yes. So Elaine typed in the outline, I literally do not know what to talk about. And then of course she lists a whole bunch of topics to talk about. So a lot of team leaders is what you wanted to start out with, I noticed here.
Because I think that the team leaders is very telling to why there should be an amendment to the NHL CHL agreement. So Chicago, Cleveland, and Texas, all 3 of them had their top point scorers should have been in the OHL this year. Yes. Yeah. And let me explain to you what those players really brought to the game too. So you have Phil Tomasino, who for Chicago, who is amazing. He's well-rounded. He plays both sides of the puck really well. He knows how to get under the skin of the opposition already. I mean, there are so many times when the Wolves have to come in and protect him from other teams because he's maybe taken an extra whack at the goaltender, and people didn't like that so much. But in 29 games, he has 32 points, and 13 goals. 4 of those were on the power play, and then he has 19 assists. It's just it's amazing to watch him because his hockey IQ is already so far above so many other players in the AHL, and he wants to get to the NHL. Like, he is driven to get there. And then there's Tyler Angle from the Cleveland Monsters. He is almost at a point per game. He has I'm just kidding. He's over a point per game because I can do math. Wow. Mm-hmm. He has 24 points in 23 games. 11 goals, 13 assists. 3 of them were on the power play. He is another one who can play both sides of the puck really well. He does need to work a little bit on some like defensive aspects, like not getting knocked off the puck. But he's really good at poke checking in the neutral. He's really good at picking people's pockets in the D zone. So, like, he's young, so there's room to grow. I wouldn't be shocked if he maybe started next season in the NHL, at least a few games, if they gave him a little whirl, if he keeps progressing over the summer. And then, and Riley Daniani from the Texas Stars.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
What a beautiful player. 36 points, 36 games, 11 goals, 25 assists, 4 power play goals. And he was a dream on the power play. Like, even if he wasn't assisting the goal, he was helping set it up in some way, shape or form. Unfortunately, Cece did not get to see that live when the Stars
Damiani and the Texas Stars did not show up. They were imposters in those numbers and those jerseys, and it was a little disheartening to see, and especially after seeing on AHL TV Damiani put up a hat trick against the Eagles. Mm-hmm. It's like it was such just that force in the third period just to take over the game the way he did. Like, this is a young kid playing a grown man's game. And to see that, it was just like, and the fact that he leads the Texas Stars, or the fact that he is the point leader to finish out the season for the Texas Stars, it's mind boggling. It's like Quentin Byfield over with the Ontario Reign and jumping up to the NHL, and it's a grown ass man's league, and these young kids are coming in and just taking them by storm. It's like, I saw somebody on social media. This is the instant gratification society that we live in. You have players like the Tyler Toffolis that toil for years in the AHL and then finally crack through to the NHL, and but not anymore apparently. These kids are just going off.
Not this season. I wonder if it's because they didn't have to play against a bunch of 16-year-olds.
Yeah, that was a discussion we did have the last time you were on the program.
I always bring it up every time I'm anywhere this season. I bring it up.
Hey, you're just going randomly in the grocery store. By the way, have I told you about the Canadian Hockey League and the major junior system? And the 90-year-old lady is like, honey, I don't know what you're saying.
Right. I just want to know how much these oranges cost.
Oh my God.
Oh gosh.
So what about the other? Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was saying he's just so beautiful to watch because the plays are so smooth. Like, the way he winds up is so smooth. Nothing looks disjointed. Everything is done with meaning, but it's also like watching a ballet on the ice, which I guess would be like watching a figure skating competition. But it's so beautiful. It's so artistic in a sense, but it's like, it's not fancy all the time either. It's very simple and very smooth, very beautiful. If you ever get a chance to watch him, people just watch clips because it's beautiful. Yeah.
It's very beautiful. I agree with that. To kind of round out the leaders, of course, Riley Barbie, not a big Barbie, Riley Barber, rather. Yes, I talk well. I miss an episode and I forget how to speak English. Don't mind me, okay? Riley Barber, veteran of the AHL, not a big surprise, especially with him showing out the last few games for the Grand Rapids Griffins. 34 points, 20 goals, 14 assists. 8 of those goals are power play goals. Holy crow. 32 games played. That's over a point per game clip. Gabriel Dumont for the Iowa Wild, 31 points, 12 goals, 19 assists for the Minnesota Wild's farm club. And last but not least, the Rockford Ice Hogs, Dylan McLaughlin, 22 points, 8 goals, 14 assists, 3 power play goals, 2 shorthanded goals, 28 games played, named most improved player by the team. And if you want to look for a ray of light in the kind of abysmal season that the Rockford Ice Hogs had, definitely Dylan McLaughlin for sure. But
right. So there's one thing I really want to touch on with Riley Barber is
go ahead.
Sitting in those post games with him. As the season wound down, he was so honest about how tired he and the team were and how hard it was to find the motivation to finish the season strong. And I mean, but as he finished the one press conference, someone asked him how it felt to score the game winner. And he was like, I love scoring goals. It's the best feeling ever. And so the love of the sport clearly drives Riley Barber to be the best. And another thing is I noticed, I was like, wow, you're really I literally said these words. I'm like, you're really thriving and vibing with this team this year. And he just said that this group is really a good group of guys. And it's the most fun he's ever had with his teammates before. So when you have that connection and that camaraderie in a time like a pandemic where you don't get to see each other much outside of the rink, it really goes a long way. And I just remember interviewing Riley Barber, him talking about how hard it was, how tired he was. And then they rolled up into Cleveland and he was like, I want to finish this game. And he just with commanding force, I thought he was going to put a hole in the net, just slap shot, wound up and slap shotted a shot from the top of the right face-off circle. And I mean, they didn't win, but it was just he wasn't done. He was not done yet. He was ready to finish strong. And that just says everything about him. And I hope Stevie Yzerman looks at that and shows that not only is his mental mindset there, but his skill set is there to back it up. So, yeah.
So watch out for him in Grand Rapids next year. And Elaine, as we mentioned before, will be covering the Griffins next season as well. So, so keep an eye on that. Elaine, any closing thoughts as we finish up the Central Division, as we, the regular season is done and over with. These guys get to rest with a goal in starting up back in October of 2021. Closing thoughts on the Central.
Well, my closing thoughts is, I actually had a lot, but there's one I just really want to hit home is it was a really tough year, and the coaches and players consistently reminded everyone that it's okay to be human and that everyone is human. I mean, and that family is important. The very first press conference I was in this season, Dylan Simpson was someone asked about his daughter, what was it like to have a baby born during the pandemic, all of that. And he straight up just took his hands out, asked for the baby from his wife, and then was like, hey guys, this is my child.
Aww.
Yes. And then my last press conference of the season, Coach Warsofsky from the Chicago Wolves, he just walks into the camera with his son, his 1-year-old son, in his arm, and did post game with him. And those are things that I don't think fans see enough of, that these players and these coaches, they're more than the sport. And this season, that's what they talked about a lot. Giovanni Smith saying that we, as he said, we as hockey players forget that we are also, humans, and we should be spending time with our families, checking in on our families, and Joey Keane talking about how great it was to be at home playing for the Chicago Wolves and getting a home cooked meal every night, just all of those small little details that often get overlooked in a regular season, and I was terrified to go into post games with Ben Simon because people told me that he was intense, no nonsense, and frightening. Those were the words I heard. Okay.
Wow. Okay.
So the first one, I was super terrified because I'm like, I don't know what to expect. I don't know. What if I ask something stupid? And he was answering everyone's questions with such respect. Like, if he didn't agree with someone, it was like, I respectfully disagree with your assessment. And then he broke down why. And then I think my favorite that really shined a light on his personality was when I asked him, like one game, he was talking about how the PK numbers were indicative of how they were playing, that they were playing really well. And then the very next game, they did really bad. They looked bad. They gave up a lot of goals. And he just looked at me and said, well, I think you jinxed it. And then started, yeah.
I watched that clip. I saw you post that clip. You're like, hey, check this out. And I'm like, oh my God.
And then he started laughing. And I'm like, this is not a terrifying man.
No.
Like, this is a man who, if you are going to bring something to the table to have him answer, if you are going to be like, take his opinion seriously, if you're going to listen to what he's saying and build upon it, he is going to give you a world full of quotes. And that's how Coach Warsofsky is too. I heard he was super intense. And there was only one time I saw him incredibly intense in a press conference. And that was after Iowa beat them. And it was a bad game. Like, and when I say bad, I mean like the two teams, it was like almost bloodbath central. Like it was intense. And that's you would expect that out of a coach after that.
Sure.
So we got to see these other sides of these. I felt super welcomed by all the fans, all the other reporters. This is the first season at the end of the season where I didn't think about retiring from writing because I didn't feel alone, because all the other AHL writers were going through what I went through. They have that day job that they have to do. They have families they take care of. They have all of these things. And, their NHL teams, fans don't always give them the benefit of the doubt when it comes to what they actually know about the AHL. Sure. So I didn't feel alone this season. It was the hardest season for me ever. But I just feel like next year is going to be amazing. So I feel ready, and I do not feel like I should retire, which is like, thank everyone, including you too, for being like a wonderful editor and a wonderful friend, because I don't know how I would have gotten through the season without my Monsters beat reporter family, their fans, their staff, like including like the elevator ladies and the people, like the security guards named Barb. Barb's amazing. If anyone is there, they know Barb, and the way the Chicago Wolves writers and Lindsay, their PR guy, like really took to me, and Randy from the Griffins, and how Ben Simon treated me. Like, even the Iowa Wild, I only got to talk to them once just because of the way the season did. And Coach Tim Army was so thankful, so wonderful, so kind, so charitable with his words and his time. And the Texas Stars, like, they have an amazing beat reporter from 100 Degrees of Hockey that covers them, knows them inside and out, but still respects me when I come to those, like the Rockford Ice Hogs have these amazing fans who like latched onto me, and I've like created these friendships, like the Central special, the AHL special. I love it. I'm sorry. That was a really long thought.
You know what? It's the end of the season, and you and I have talked about this, we've talked about this in the direct messaging, and yeah, to hear you say it out loud and to hear you have a platform to be able to say this at the end of probably one of the most unique, taxing, and difficult seasons for players, coaches, staff, and yes, beat writers. To hear you share your side of the story and to hear you say for the first time in your professional writing career, you didn't feel like I want to call it quits, especially after having a hell of a year and covering a whole freaking division. I mean, like, I will say this, the human element of the game to see the players, to get to know them in a working relationship through interviews and things like that. And Elaine, you know this, I've told you this before, but I, by myself, the 17-18 season, for probably 85 to 90% of the regular season games for Idaho, I was alone at the press table as a credential media member. So I was invited into now Texas head coach Neil Graham's office when he was coaching Idaho with now Idaho Steelheads head coach Everett Sheen. And the two of them, Everett Sheen was sitting on the couch in the office and Neil Graham was at his desk, and they'd have me come in and sit on the other couch to interview him. You want to talk about, intimidating. And Neil Graham, after a loss, he can be a little gruff. I mean, what coach isn't? But, the fact that he took me in and he sat me down and he let me ask as many questions as I wanted within reason, and then at the end of the second season covering him, which was my last season covering the Steelheads before I moved here to Denver, I think one of the last regular season interviews that he did, he took his young son up in his arms and he did the post game with his son just right there. And so for you to say that, and now that Neil Graham's in the Central Division, I'm feeling a little synchronicity here. I mean, that's kind of what that reminded me of. Like, this is a game of people. This is a game of people. Yes, we break it down. We they could do this better. They could do that better. But we also have the feature stories. You also have Neil Graham and his wife giving birth to a child right as the pandemic was coming around in March 2020. So no, the fact that you opened up and talked like that, yeah, that made me a little emotional, and I appreciate you, my friend. I appreciate what you bring to Full Press Hockey. I appreciate, there we go. Boom. I appreciate, yeah. I appreciate your snorts. I appreciate what you bring to just my life in general. And like you said, as a friend, it's just, okay. All right. Central Division, we're going to wrap it up. Let's take another break. We'll finish up with the Pacific Division because they're the only division in the AHL that's going to have a postseason, that's going to have a tournament for the John D. Chick Trophy, that Pacific Division crown. So hang tight, one more break, and we'll be on our way. All right, last but not least, we're talking about the Pacific Division because their postseason is starting today as this episode drops, Tuesday, May 18th. And here is what the schedule looks like. Now, if the Eagles would have won 2 out of their 3 games against San Diego to close out the regular season, they would have clinched the 4 seed over the San Jose Barracuda. They only got 3 out of an available 6 points. So because of that, they tied San Jose with a dead even .500 point percentage. But since San Jose won 15 regulation wins to the Eagles 13, the Barracuda, have the number 4 seed. So the Barracuda will get to play in the play-in round on Tuesday, May 18th at 1 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. That's 4 p.m. for Elaine and all the East Coast folks. Tucson will play San Jose, and then later on that evening, Ontario will play Colorado at 7:30 Pacific. That's 10:30 Eastern time. Yeah, I'll definitely be covering that game.
Yeah, that's not me.
That's not me. Not me.
No way.
So yes. So Elaine will be covering that game. Thank goodness. And she'll do, I mean, we've got the day jobs. We've talked about that. So she'll do her best to jump on there and live tweet that game. And then I will cover the next game tomorrow evening, of course, because Colorado Eagles, that's my home beat. But the winner of those 2 games on Wednesday, this is all in Irvine, California, by the way, where the San Diego Gulls have called home for the 2021 season. The winner on Wednesday, May 19th, will play, the winners of those 2 games, I should say, 7 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. game 1 winner, game 2 winner. The winner of that will actually be the number 4 seed. The play-in winner will face off against the Henderson Silver Knights in a best-of-3 series. And the other Pacific Division semifinals is already set. Bakersfield against the San Diego Gulls. And of course, the winner of those 2 series will play in a final to conclude on May 29th, best-of-3, and all games at the home of the higher seeds. So there you have it. Against the PHPA's wishes, against the majority of the players' wishes, we are having a AHL Pacific Division postseason for the John D. Chick Trophy. So
yeah,
you
know what I want to see? I know I tweeted this, but just in case they don't follow me on Twitter, I would like to see the players in the Pacific decide to, they have to show up. They have to get on the ice, but they don't have to do anything on the ice. So 20 minutes, stand around, get off, go back on for 20 minutes, stand around, get off, go on for 19 minutes and don't do anything in the third, and then rock, paper, scissors it to see who's going to just tap in that game-winning goal so they can at least have like a score. Because it's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous. If players don't want to play, if they voted against it, why are they playing? It's ludicrous. It's insane. I have so many thoughts. We don't have enough time for them all because they would all be ragey and like,
Yeah.
But yeah, I say they can't strike. They're not allowed to, I don't think. Right. So.
Yeah, that would be a sticky situation, I would think.
Right.
Even players did it. That's kind of cool suicide is what I saw from Tony.
Right.
Andrakanitis. How do you say his last name?
I don't know how to say Tony from inside.
Tony A from Inside AHL Hockey.
Yeah.
There you go.
My brain just went like.
Yeah, I get it.
The other thing they could do is just like score as many goals as possible without stopping each other. Really rack up, a first period that's like 12-13.
Oh my goodness.
And then the game ends with like a college basketball score, like 68-58 to like 60.
Oh my goodness. Yeah,
just giving ideas to Pacific right now.
Sure. I mean, both of those ideas probably wouldn't bode very well. I mean, but it's the fun thought that counts. Elaine's all about the fun here. So
I am.
But I like your line here. Henderson like Daddy Vegas. Daddy Vegas. I like that. Posed to make a run for the 1 spot. Well, at least for the division crown in their first year of existence. And I have a little bit of a theory. So considering this is my beat, if you don't mind, I'm going to
go for it.
Yes.
Take the floor.
CC taking the floor.
Take the ice. Take the
ice. I'm doing my solo lap right now. So, okay. So Ontario is having a hell of a run. 7 out of their last 8 games, they have emerged victorious. So I don't hold out a lot of hope for the Colorado Eagles. Eagles 2-5-1 in their last 8 games. Dropped 2 of 3 against San Diego. I think, I'm kind of blending predictions here as well, because that's what we're going into too. But yeah, I don't hold out a lot of hope for Colorado, the other C word, not the team you cover, but me. So I think Ontario gets the victory, but here's my thing. You look at the bottom of the West Division. You have the Coyotes, you have the Kings, you have the Sharks, you have the Ducks. All 4 of those teams have AHL affiliates in the Pacific Division, because you had the great AHL migration out west back in 2016. And now you've got Tucson, Ontario, the Barracuda, and the San Diego Gulls, who have all of their guys back, especially the Gulls. I mean, Jamie Drysdale, Trevor Zegras, get out of town. They're hands down. They're my favorite, because Henderson, Vegas, Daddy Vegas is in the postseason. And the expanded roster, you got your top tier Henderson guys now up with the Golden Knights. They've graduated from silver to gold.
I love it.
They're putting in that exchange rate, as it were. So their cup of coffee is no longer silver. It is gold plated. So there you go. But so you've got those teams, as Elaine is trying to stifle laughter. Sorry. The Eagles as well. The Avalanche, of course, winning the President's Trophy, winning the West Division, the Hershey Bears of the NHL. Yeah. You like how I reversed that? Yeah. I'm making an AHL comparison to an NHL team. That's the kind of podcast we are. So, but anyway, so yeah, Colorado, the Avalanche also expanded roster for the playoffs, taking a lot of guys like Jason Megna, Kiefer Sherwood, Liam O'Brien, Jacob McDonald, Dan Renouf, a young kid by the name of Alex Newhook, who seems to be doing pretty well. It's like, yeah, I don't think the Eagles have a whole lot of chance to make it out of the first play-in game, let alone the play-in round in general. So yeah, with all of that said, I think the teams whose NHL clubs did not make the playoffs have a better advantage. So in my opinion, I could definitely see, let me look at the bracket here. So you have San Diego and Bakersfield in the Pacific Division semifinals. So you have, I think it's going to be San Diego and Ontario in the final. And I think it goes all 3 games. And I think Ontario wins it in 3. Because Ontario, they've got the big Mo going for them. They've got that momentum.
Yeah.
And anytime you've got that momentum and anytime you've got your young stars as well, Quentin Byfield, like I said, Arthur Kaliev, gosh, I'm just spacing Akil Thomas, the Black and Silver Bandits is what Sean and I call them. And for good reason, because they can steal a game if you're not careful. So there you have it. That's my pick. It's going to be San Diego and Ontario. Kind of a roundabout way of saying it with my philosophy going into it, but San Diego and Ontario in the final, and it's going to be Ontario in 3. What about you?
Tucson's winning the whole thing because it's a weird year, and I'm doubling down. Tucson Roadrunners. They're just gonna do it because what is more 2021?
Than the very last team in the division. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Who are they facing though? Who do you think they face? San Diego or Baco?
San Diego.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
And how many games for posterity's sake?
They're not gonna sweep. I was gonna say they were gonna
So 3 games. Okay.
Sweep. I'm sorry. That was too bold. Too bold. I put too many grounds of coffee in my coffee maker.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, when you're chewing your coffee, that's a little too bold, Elaine. Oh,
watch them actually sweep now. Like I'll die.
Right? Seriously. Oh my god. Okay.
I'm bad at guessing how many games. I don't know, but it's a weird year. Honestly, like, why not just end it on a super weird note? Or this is what's going to happen. There's going to be a COVID outbreak and they won't be able to finish it. So,
oh, shoot. Oh, my God. See, like,
and I don't want to wish that. I don't want to wish that on anyone.
Let me
take that bad, let me just swipe that bad mojo out of the air.
No bad vibes. Play the Shaquille O'Neal gif with him going, hey, hey. Bad vibes, negative energy. Hey. All right. So while Elaine is cracking up, let me point out something that we have pointed out on the program before. Elaine, with your bold decision that the Tucson Roadrunners, okay, they won their first 4 games of the season. They did not win 2 games in a row the rest of the season. So the last time that they won 2 games in a row was February 12th and February 14th.
Okay, so
happy Valentine's Day, Tucson winning the division. That would be something.
It's going to happen because
Chicago
won their first game 3-1, and they won their last game 3-1. So.
And then I forgot to mention, it was here on the outline. Chicago putting up the touchdown and the extra point, claiming the Sam Pollock Trophy there in the Central Division over the Griffins 7-0 on Wednesday, May 12th.
Yeah, so obviously
Gotta say that.
Tucson, who hasn't had a good season at all, is going. I know how ridiculous I sound, okay? But I want to remind people that one year I jokingly told someone that the Penguins were going to win the Stanley Cup, and it was going to be because they called Tom Sestito up and he helped them. And I did not think he was going to get called up. And then he got called up and he helped them and they won the Stanley Cup. So if I'm being super ridiculous, there's a chance that God is being really funny and just planting that seed in my brain. I'm trying to make it sound rational, guys. But
we make our plans and God laughs. I think God laughs with Elaine more so than anyone else. If I may say so myself, if I may be so bold. Because Elaine has a hell of a sense of humor, no pun intended, to talk about the Lord Almighty and then say that she has a hell of a sense of humor. Anyway, so those are Elaine's picks for the Pacific Division and the tournament, as it were. Ontario versus San Diego for me in 3 games. Ontario takes it. The Rein become the Pacific Division champions, and Elaine picking the last seed Tucson Roadrunners to upset both the Henderson Silver Knights and the San Diego Gulls. Last one in 3 games as well. Hold on to your butts, because if Elaine is picking that, watch it happen. Right. Oh my God. Well, we're going to have to revisit this.
I'm near Cleveland. I'm near Cleveland. Anything can happen. Northeast Ohio is magical. Anything good or bad can happen. Like, we could build a beautiful chandelier over the middle of the street in downtown Cleveland, or the river can catch on fire. Everything's up in the air up here.
I mean, when you have a football stadium with the nickname The Factory of Sadness.
It's not that anymore, because
it's not.
2022 Super Bowl champs, baby.
Whoa, easy. Pump the brakes. Wow, riding the Baker Mayfield train. Oh, my
Baker
goodness.
Bayfield, as I like to call him.
Baker Bayfield?
Like BAE, like
the
word Bay.
Baker is Bay. I get it.
Yeah,
I get it now. Okay, sorry. I'm like, there's no Bay in Cleveland. There's no Bay there.
There's a Bay Village. There's a Bay Village. It's nearby.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to everyone listening to this.
Oh, goodness. Well, hey, we have covered, and thank you. Sorry for missing out and not making the announcement last episode when it was supposed to drop on Friday. I had to take some time off for some personal reasons. Sean, he wasn't going to fly solo at the last minute, which I don't blame him at all. And so we both were like, okay, well, Sean's going to start his weekend early. We both agreed on that. That's perfectly fine. And then Sean had already planned to take this episode off. And so Elaine, thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
For stepping in. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Thank you for, thank you all. I don't know why I said, yeah, exactly.
Thank you for all the bull takes.
Exactly. You better be thankful. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's that Northeast Ohio / Chicago suburbs attitude coming out. That's right.
Yeah,
you better be thankful.
You better be thankful.
I know my worth.
Straight out of Denver. Yeah. Giving it to you.
The Rubber City, baby.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Mile High City, baby, and more ways than one. Oh. Anyway. Oh boy.
I'm fine.
Well, on that note, let's cue the closing dialogue. My name is CC Hockley, and the Calder Farmstead is part of the Full Press Radio Network. You can listen to this program, many other hockey podcasts, and sports entertainment shows on Full Press Coverage at www.fullpresscoverage.com. And you can find me representing Full Press Hockey on Twitter at FPC_AHL and at my personal account at CC Hawk. That's SEESEEHAWK. I'd say a good portion of my tweets are about hockey, but I'm a fan of the rock band Rush. So you'll see me talking about them, talking about music in general, talking about a little pro wrestling as well. Sure. Why not? Why not? So follow me. As I always say, to kind of close things out, if it keeps me interested, hopefully it's not going to be bullshit for you. So with that all said, you can check out my writing as well, and Elaine's too. I mean, we'll get to her Twitter account here and her writing and her endeavors here shortly. But yes, you can check out my writing, Elaine's writing, on the Full Press Coverage Network at www.fullpresshockey.com. And if you want to throw that backslash AHL in there as well, that'll be the AHL page. Imagine that. So, Elaine, real quick, where can people where can people find your work?
Well, as you previously stated,
Yes.
you can find me at fullpresscoverage.com.
Do go on.
And you can find me on all social media platforms with the same handle, because I like to keep things consistent. At I'm a Rein Dancer, which is spelled IMA, and then the word Rein Dancer, because you guys should all be able to spell that.
Rain as in precipitation.
Yes,
Not
as in
Ontario
precipitation.
rain.
As in what it does in Seattle a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And just be prepared, because I talk about literally everything, and it gets wild sometimes. I'm just really random. I love everything. Life is interesting to me. Just whatever you do, do not request to be my friend, because that's only for family on Facebook. I invite you to follow me everywhere else but there.
Yes. Facebook's a different realm for sure. Totally.
Well, yeah.
Totally, in more ways than one.
I have an image to uphold on Facebook with my family.
I see.
I'm just kidding. They all know I'm crazy.
Oh, good.
That's
Okay.
fine.
Okay. Well, hey, that's it for the show. We're wrapping up episode 37. If you guys are enjoying the show, please make sure to subscribe so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, please give us a like on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel, rate and review the podcast, give us those 5 stars. If anything, the more 5 stars, especially after Elaine came on the show, give her like the biggest ego boost in the world and be like, look at our numbers. Elaine came on the show and just rocket to space. We're talking.
I will cry. I will be like an emotional mess.
Yeah,
they like me. They really like me.
Oh my goodness, Sally feels all over again. Oh, it'll be glorious. So make Elaine cry. Leave us some great reviews and 5 stars, of course, on any podcast platform you're listening, or on YouTube. Like I said, like the video, comment what you thought of the episode, subscribe. Doing so helps others find the show, and your reviews help us improve it. You can also follow the show on social media at Calder Farmstead on Twitter, at the Calder Farmstead on Instagram and Facebook. And links to all of that can be found on our link tree, which is scrolling below if you're watching on YouTube. If not, it is linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. So, for episode 37, on behalf of Elaine Shircliff, my name is CC Hockley, and as always, keep your stick on the ice.